Hi, you guys. Welcome back to my channel, Life Lessons Learned. And if you saw my three previous videos, I talk about the experiences I had with people that attended my parenting classes. So, in this video, I actually want to share an experience of when the cops were called out on me as a parent. So, if I'm going to talk about, lessons that I was able to teach other parents in order to have better communication in their family units, I sometimes should also share some of the missteps that I may have made as a parent while teaching parenting classes. So, let's just say that. And this particular time, as you guys know, I have three young daughters, and I was single through divorce. So, um, and I also worked in the community. So I was a well known community member, well known at my job as a parenting instructor. And I volunteered in my kids' schools that they attended. So the teachers also knew me and principals knew me. I was a big deal when my girls were growing up. So at this particular time, my youngest daughter, um, was on the school bus and there was an incident that occurred. And when she explained to me what had happened, I wasn't too thrilled about it. Okay. I was like, well, what did the bus driver do? So I'm going to explain to you the event that occurred, what my reaction was to that, and how that reaction led to bus driver calling the cops to, to remove me from the bus. So um my daughters, I always, taught them to of course, be mannerable and be respectful and that kind of thing. But I also taught them about their, coming into their own self worth and their own being and making sure that people knew what was acceptable to them as far as interacting with them and speaking with them, that kind of thing. But this daughter was in a grade school at the time. So, kind of young to be trying to learn all the power that she has within. Okay. But they were still listen to me and they would, take my advice and, try to be positive in their own life. Well, this particular daughter, there was a bully that was on the school bus, and every school bus has at least one, sometimes three or four, if they run in gangs. And this guy, this young boy, I shouldn't say this guy, but this young student didn't just pick on her. I mean, he picked on a bully picks on other people as well. So one day it was just her turn. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. But anyway, the kids were on the bus. And you know how the kids have their notebooks and some of them may be reading, some of them may be scribbling stuff or whatever it is they do, drawing pictures, whatever it is that kids do on the school bus. But so she had her books with her, and it was a summer day in Michigan. So Michigan has very beautiful summer days, and the bus windows were open so the kids could get some fresh air going through. And everybody was kind of enjoying themselves on the bus. And this bully stops at her seat, comes up to her seat, and asks her what she was doing in her notebook. And she replied something about looking at my homework or looking at something. And he snatched the book from her and threw it out the window as the bus is driving. And she said she remembered what I she remembered something that I had told her, and she was like, we're responsible for how we act and react to situations. So she said she just looked at him and she said, I don't care if you throw that book away, I have others. So she didn't make a big deal of it. But of course, when she got home and I noticed she didn't have all her books, I said, what happened to your notebook I brought? And she told me that this boy had thrown it out the window. But she said, but Mom, you'll be proud of me. I didn't cry or anything. I just told him I had other notebooks. So, in my mind, first of all, let's just be real. No parent wants their children to be bullied. What I have a problem with is when parents whose kids are the bully thinks it's okay to let them do that. Okay, I'm gonna say that up front. They make excuses for why their kid did what they did instead of doing what they should be doing with them. That's another story. So I said, well, what did the bus driver say, or what did the bus driver do? And she said, well, we told him that he had, thrown my notebook out the window, but they said there wasn't anything they could do about that. And that may be right. I mean, the bus drivers can't reprimand the kids. Today, police officers can't reprimand them. Judges can't reprimand them. We're just out here on our own. So, yeah. And you guys all know that I am trained in conflict resolution. So I do want to say that and peaceful outcomes for conflict. So, you know, those were the things that should have been running through my mind. But and at some point I'm sure they did, but at this point they didn't, okay? So I said I was going to get on that bus tomorrow and I wanted her to point out the student that I did that. Now, just so you guys know, I am quite aware that parents today meet kids at the bus stop and fight them and shoot at them and tell other kids, three or four students to jump on them. That is not me, okay? I don't condone that for anyone. I didn't at that time and I still don't today. So I'm going to say that up front. My idea was to see who he was. And as a community member, remember I told you I worked in the local community as well. And I know that I would know most of the parents in that area. Most of the kids that would be on that bus, I would know their parents and everything. So my idea was to identify him so that I could go and speak with his parents. And trust me, this was years ago because I know now you can't even go speak to parents. They're opening the doors, ready to shoot you, shoot the police, shoot the FBI. Okay, I get it. But back in the day, sometimes you could actually approach the parents, and the parents will have some sense, and they wouldn't even be aware that their student was acting an ass, and so they would, rectify that situation. So I got on the bus, and of course, the bus driver's like, ma'am, why are you on the bus? And so I told him, I pointed out my daughter and I said, yesterday someone threw her notebook out of the window and you did nothing about it. So since you can't do anything about it, I want to find out who this student is. So go on about your route and I'll, see where he lives at and I would like to talk to his parents. So, and I don't blame the bus driver for what they did because they're probably thinking, I don't know this lady. I don't know what she's going to do when this kid gets on the bus. Those things didn't cross my mind at the time because it's not like I got on the bus angry or anything like that. I was just like, I just want to see who he is so I can, speak to his parents. Well, the bus driver and their need to, make sure there was not going to be an altercation and not do anything, he told me that he would not finish his route. He said, as long as you're on the bus, we're not going anywhere. And so me with my silly ass said, okay, well then I guess we won't be going anywhere. Yeah. If only better minds could come into play here. So I sat on the bus, and I guess he thought that he was going to wait me out. 5 minutes go past, 10 minutes go past, and then he says, ma'am, all of these students are going to be late for class. And I said, you didn't seem to be concerned about the students yesterday when one was bullying my daughter. Now all of a sudden you're worried about students being late. Because I'm like, I'm not giving a damn about what you're talking about at this point. So he said, if you don't leave, I'm going to have to call the police. And again, my silly ass, call them. I'm going to tell them that someone has bullied my daughter, and let's see how far that goes. So, yeah, I was not in my right mind. Definitely not acting like a peace negotiator. Okay. So, he called the police. So we sat and waited because now, after someone calls the police, you can't be a chicken shit and now get off the bus before the police come. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you're going to stand your ground and you know that, or you feel that you're right, you have to see this thing through. Plus, that's just not my character to do something like that. Hold the bus up and then when they call the police, leave. I was like, no, my daughter needs to know that I'm protecting her as well as the rest of these kids on this bus that this guy has been bullying that the school bus driver can't do anything about. So, two police officers come out and they're community police officers. So this isn't funny, you guys. It's just funny to me, okay? You guys will probably say, this chick is out of it. But because they were community police officers, they knew me. If you remember, I told you I was pretty well known. So they automatically assumed that it was a different parent that was causing hell on the bus. So they got there and they said, "Oh, Miss Bradley, you must be here to, help negotiate." They said, "Where's the angry parent? Let me let me make light of this situation." I said, "You're looking at her." And at first, one of them laughed. He said, "Ha ha ha! No, we're looking for the parent that bus driver called us on." The bus driver goes, "This is her." So one officer, you know how they take off their hat and they kind of scratch their head and they go, "Okay, so what's going on?" So of course we explained the situation to them, and because they knew me, they said, "Okay, Miss Brantley, this is what we're going to do. Why don't you meet us at the school and we can talk to the administration and see if it can be worked out, in the proper way, because the bus driver is right. He can't have someone point out, a kid to you, you know, that you may be unhappy with." So they asked me to step off the bus. And because police, for me, are an authority figure, okay, hello, I wasn't going to be, resisting arrest, fighting them, telling them I'm not getting off the bus. Come on now, for lots of reasons. But number one, there's a bus load of school children. Do we want to teach them to disrespect authority? And I know some parents out there are like, well, yeah, I'm not one of them, okay? And really, if you're looking at any of my life lessons learned videos, you probably aren't one of those parents either. But anyway, that's what happened in that situation. At this point, my daughter's like, like even before the police got there, she's like, "Mom, just go. It's okay. I don't care. I have other notebooks." And I'm like, "Nope, we're not going to sissify this whole incident and have the bully win and thinks that the bus driver can't do anything, the parent can't do anything, police can't do anything. He's in grade school. Well, probably by now he may be in some jail cell, but I'm just saying at that point he was in grade school, and who knows, maybe lessons were learned and he wound up being a productive citizen of society. I have no idea. I didn't follow up on his life 20 years later. But I can tell you that I did decide to take the police officer's advice, and we did go to the school. And of course, we found out that this guy, he has a bullying problem, and they were trying to resolve that in different ways and working with the parents and things like that. Now, I can tell you, yeah, was I? Well, let me say this. There were lots of lessons for me to learn as well, because as I said, as I was a pillar in the community, I definitely did not want to tarnish my own reputation by being a parenting instructor, giving advice for other parents. And then when it came to me and my daughter, I'm like, no, everything's different. All of those rules are out the window. Was not my intent, and it was not my it wasn't the outcome for me as well. People who did hear about it, they were like, well, yeah, we understand. And, we can see your point of view in that, but also, officer's point and this and the school's point. So with that, I can tell you that that particular, sometimes bullies, if someone does stand up to them, then they won't bother that person again, but they still bully other people. So I can say that he didn't bother my daughter anymore, but she did tell me his behavior didn't like change overnight. He was still bothering other students on the bus that whose, parents didn't speak out or didn't get involved or whatever the case may have been. But I made it clear that that was not acceptable for me and my daughter. And if need be, they would need to expel him. And if things continued, then he would need to be going to another school altogether, because that was just ridiculous for me. Now, telling that story, I want to also share one where, and this was in the same time zone, where this young lad, it was a different boy altogether, was coming. He lived maybe 4 or 5 blocks away from my house was at from where me and my girls lived. But he would come over to our block and raise hell. You'd see like an old lady walking on the sidewalk with her groceries, and he would be on his bike and yell for her to move, scare her at the last moment. He would be riding his bike all out in the street, and kids shouldn't really do that. And this was another grade schooler. And my thing is, I mean, he could easily have gotten hit, could be a drunk driver out in the street, just anything. So what I did, I found out what his name was. One day he happened to be going down my block wreaking havoc. And I said, "Hey, come over here." And he was like, "What? I don't have to do what you tell me to." And I said, "Oh, yes, you do, because I'm going to find out who your mother is." That stopped him cold in his tracks. He braked on that bike. And he said, "What, wait, what did you say?" And I said, "Come here." He came over, he rode his little bike over to where I was at. And I said, "What is your name?" He's looking all down. So and so. I said, "And where do you live?" He said, "I don't live on this block, ma'am." I said, "Yeah, I'm sure of that, because you wouldn't be acting like that if you lived on this block." I said, "So where do you live?" And he had like three or four of his friends with him. They was like, "You better tell him, man. That's Miss Brantley. She'll find out anyway." So he told me. I marched right over to his mother's house, and I explained to her that he was coming on our block, terrorizing the older people, riding his bike out in the street, which I know he wasn't allowed to do because he was still in grade school, and just hanging with, the crowd of boys that perhaps needed to be changed. And his mother invited me in, asked me to sit down on her couch, and she said, "I am so glad you told me that." She said, "Because you're right. He knows not to do that on this street." And she said, "And that's exactly why he goes somewhere else and does it." She said, "But I tell you what, he won't be doing that anymore." And she had him come over to me and apologize. And she said, "You see this lady? If she or anyone else on her block says anything to you, you had better listen, because they will let me know." And she said, "You know that this is not acceptable." And I'm sure he was embarrassed, but sometimes embarrassment works for kids when parents need to, check them. So, and to be honest with you, sometimes I get it. Some kids are afraid to, when they're with the wrong crowd, afraid to say, "You guys, this isn't right. I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to do this," because they're afraid they're going to get bullied and talked about and that kind of thing. So I get it. Peer pressure is a hell of a thing. And it's not just for children. I always tell people that sometimes adults fall for the peer pressure thing. If I say anything to the boss, the other people won't like me. Just do the right thing. What is so wrong in life with saying what's the right thing to do and then doing that? I mean, like, I don't get it. I literally do not get it. And I know my kids make fun of me and they're like, "Mom, the world just isn't like that." And I get it, but it can be. Okay, so that's my rant. So on this one, like I said, I just wanted to share when I was the one that was the unruly parent, if you want to call it that. But as a result of that, my daughter was removed from that bullies list, and he had to go on to greener pastures, unfortunately. So that's that. This is Life Lessons Learned. Now, I would like for you to leave a comment as to how you would have handled that if your child, first of all, two different ways. If your child was the one being bullied and their notebook was thrown out the window and nothing was done about it, or if you were the parent that discovered your child is the one doing the bullying, what techniques or tips did you use to nip that in the bud? So again, this is Life Lessons Learned. You know my mantra: knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. And just to let you know, I also say the learning of a lesson is the application of it. So, of course, whenever I had issues moving forward with what my girls were experiencing in school, I did the right thing by going to the administration first and not demanding to see the kid or get on the bus and not get off and that kind of thing. So, trust me when I tell people that lessons learned are to be learned for a reason, and we're to move forward with that and apply that in other areas of our lives. So I was able to do that. So again, this is Sherry. My website is sherrybrantley.com, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks. Bye.